This one is honestly just a player I got curious about, and he's not even on a team that we cover a lot, but it's kind of an interesting story anyway. So stick around, and we are going to talk about Saints quarterback Spencer Rattler. All right, everyone. Welcome to No Butts About It. I am Josh Butts. And if you missed the news somehow, first of all, you weren't subscribed to No Butts About It because I posted about it. But Derek Carr is out this week. He got injured in the Monday Night Football game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Probably going to be out for a few weeks, actually. He tore his oblique, not a fun injury. I believe it's a partial tear, but nonetheless, that means that Spencer Rattler, the rookie quarterback, will be starting for the New Orleans Saints. That has been confirmed by the team, and so we know that he will be starting. But I wanted to know, why did Spencer Rattler fall so far? I mean, if you've been paying attention to the draft the past couple of years, Spencer Rattler is someone who has come up in the past. For a while, he was considered a top 2 round player. Like, people were talking about drafting him very early, even after he transferred from Oklahoma to South Carolina. Now, of course, the reason he transferred to Oklahoma, to South Carolina from Oklahoma, if you remember, is because a certain quarterback by the name of Caleb Williams, who was the first overall pick in this year's draft or something, he took his spot. So Caleb Williams just seems to kind of always be following Spencer Rattler, and their stories will probably always be connected, especially if Rattler does have a successful start, if he continues to prove that he should be one of the more talented receivers in the NFL. And by that, I mean just Derek Carr obviously is older. Saints may be looking for a franchise guy in the future. Is Spencer Rattler potentially that guy early on? We have yet to tell. But obviously, there are some things we can look at as fans, and we can say, okay, this is why this quarterback fell. And the relative athletic score, once again, provided by Math Bomb. If you followed our draft content stuff in the off season, this was a source we used a lot. Great source. I love these charts as well. And Spencer Rattler, obviously not great. First of all, his measurables, his height, 6 foot, not great, kind of short for an NFL quarterback. 1.27 score. His weight was 211, not super big at all. Kind of maybe an injury concern there. Very poor, he ranks there. And then you look at his explosion grade. Vertical, it's all right. It's all right, not too bad. His broad jump, not great at all. Very, very poor. But he marks in the okay. And you don't really need your quarterback jumping up in the air or jumping side to side very often. So that's not too much of a worry, I think. But his speed, not great. Just overall, very poor athleticism scores that he put out. But a lot of that was already known last year or the year before when we were talking about Spencer Rattler as this college quarterback who could potentially be a first-round NFL pick. Now, if you don't remember, he was picked in the 5th round. So we aren't talking about like, oh, he slid from the 1st round to the 3rd round. No, this man fell 4 rounds in 2 years, let's say. And I wanted to know why. I was like, what did this man do? Now, we can look at his college stats at South Carolina. And you know what? He didn't have a great first year at South Carolina in 2022. He threw 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, had 3,000 yards, and a 66% pass completion rate. Not awful, but not what you're expecting in a first-round quarterback. but he improved upon that. And you could easily say new offense. They were a top 25 team, I believe, that year, and I believe they were also a top 25 team in 2023 as well. But just maybe there were just some kinks you needed to work out. New offense, new coach, new teammates, that type of thing. 2023, he had a 68.9% completion rate, so almost 3% better, 3,186 yards, and he threw 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. His best year was in 2020 at Oklahoma. He had 28 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So for the most part, he has done a pretty good job of taking care of the ball. That being said, I will say when we were watching film or even just watching games with him a few years ago, I remember seeing videos where he would just like throw into like triple or quadruple coverage. So maybe that was a concern, but it still wasn't the number one concern that I read about when I was reading this. And again, we're not talking about him falling just a few spots or maybe coaches just didn't think he was ready. I mean, let's remember, Bo Nix was not considered a first-round pick in this draft. Now, he ended up being one, but Bo Nix was considered a second, third-round talent by most draft experts. And then he got drafted by the Denver Broncos. And will he be successful as the Denver Broncos' future quarterback? Still a bit too early to tell. We will see. But there was not a quarterback drafted after Bo Nix until Spencer Rattler. That's how far this went. That's how big this expanse was. That's over 130 players that were chosen. And there were teams that still needed quarterbacks. The Raiders, for example, were expected to take a quarterback, and then they freaked out when the Falcons took Michael Penix. And they were trying to trade up, but none of these teams wanted to trade up, and they were apparently willing to just settle with Gardner Minshew, who is now being benched for Aiden O'Connell. So they draft Brock Bowers, and even in round 2, they don't take a quarterback. Round 3, round 4, round 5, the New Orleans Saints take Spencer Rattler, and that's where we are. So there are legitimate concerns with Spencer Rattler, his athleticism, whether he is able to read defenses well at an NFL level. Those are all valid things. But that doesn't seem to be the big reason that he fell. The big reason that he fell seems to be because of a documentary that he did in high school. That's right. When researching this, people said, yes, there's this, he doesn't know how to read defenses at times. He kind of seems a little inconsistent. Obviously, he's kind of short. His speed isn't great. But everything seemed to go back to this documentary. And even Ian Rappaport said that when he was meeting with NFL GMs, when he was meeting with coaches, this documentary became a concern. Now, this documentary is QB1 Beyond the Lights. It follows a bunch of senior year quarterbacks. A bunch of them happen to be future NFL quarterbacks. For example, Sam Hartman's in here. Obviously, Spencer Rattler, Justin Fields is another example. And it follows them through their senior year of high school before they move on to their D1 college that they had committed to. Now, apparently, and I have not seen this documentary myself, but Spencer Rattler did not come off super well in this documentary. And remember, Spencer Rattler is only 17 years old, 16, 17 in this documentary. But apparently, there was a scene that really stuck out to a lot of GMs that a lot of them brought up where he was yelling at his receivers, where he even is arguing with the junior quarterback, J.D. Johnson. Now, a little aside about J.D. Johnson that I found out about him when I was researching for this video, J.D. Johnson ended up committing to the University of Michigan and then having to medically retire from football. So he wasn't able to play. However, something super cool that the University of Michigan did, and head coach Jim Harbaugh at the time, they honored his scholarship still. So that's super cool of them. And then he also went on to be a student assistant coach, helping quarterbacks like J.J. McCarthy, who helped Michigan win an NCAA championship, and also got drafted in round 1 of the NFL draft by the Minnesota Vikings. So it all ties together. That's what I said. New Orleans Saints, not a team we usually cover, but this story is just so crazy. So you've got Spencer Rattler, and he's in this documentary, and he's apparently just saying, like, dude, you suck. You're the problem with this team. Just saying not great things about his teammates. Obviously, reality TV is what it is. Directors and producers are going to put together the clips that they think are going to create the best narrative and is going to create the most views, essentially. What is going to get people talking? And that was something that got people talking, for better or for worse. Now, JD Johnson has come out and said, no, look, hey, yes, me and Spencer Rattler got into fights. We got into arguments, and everything was competitive between us. But we're like brothers. What they didn't show was me yelling at Spencer the same way he yelled at me. There was an understanding between us. Obviously, I am paraphrasing a little bit, but that is essentially what he was saying. He was saying the documentary does not do a very fair job of conveying who Spencer Rattler is as a person. So, he's playing for the Gamecocks. Gamecocks didn't do super well. They had a losing record his final season. That could have contributed to it. Again, we've also talked about some of those defensive issues that he may have. His size. I just want to make sure people know that I'm not saying Spencer Rattler is just some martyr, some godly quarterback that dropped for no reason. There are legitimate football reasons. But this documentary kind of painted him in a bad way. And it painted him in a way that isn't a leader in an NFL quarterback room. Now, come to Pro Day, come to the NFL draft, and teams are meeting with their players. They're meeting with potential players. And Spencer Rattler doesn't do super good in the interviews. And now the problem with that, some players, some people just don't interview well. And that is fine. It's not the end all be all. Think about, there's just some players, some coaches even, that just cannot interview. Think about Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick hated doing the media interviews. You could tell. And now I think I've heard Bill Belichick talk more in the last year than I have his entire coaching career. So some guys just don't do well under that pressure. Completely understandable. But then when you're building upon, you're already athletically, you're kind of a questionable prospect. And these GMs and coaches have said, this documentary makes you look bad. And then the interview following that, you just come off poorly. You just come off like you don't want to be there. You're giving 1-word, 2-word answers. That becomes a problem. And coaches begin to look at that and say, we do not want this to be the face of our team. We don't think he's ready. And that is when you kind of start to fall. And so I guess the point that I made with this video, or my goal point is here, because I don't know how Spencer Rattler is going to perform. We won't see him. I'm making this video on the Saturday before he goes out. We won't see him till tomorrow. Who knows if he might come out, throw 5 touchdowns and be, you know what, Derek Carr, you stay over there on the bench. He might be that good. I don't know. I don't think he'll do that, but we will see. He has been in some great programs. He's been coached by Lincoln Riley, who has been great at creating future NFL quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray. There's a ton of, I think there's like 7 quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley has coached at some point in their college careers, and now they are NFL starting quarterbacks. So give Spencer a shot. Don't look at him as just this 5th round pick that, you know, is going to be a career backup. Maybe that does happen. But also, if there are any 17-year-old football players out there, maybe consider what you say when there's cameras watching, or just all the time. Maybe do the right thing all the time. And I get competition's a thing. You say stuff in the heat of the moment. But this guy's career took a huge nosedive because of this documentary. This documentary is going to probably follow Spencer Rattler for the rest of his career. Anytime he blows up at a player on the sideline, which happens to all quarterbacks, this documentary is going to get mentioned. I guarantee it. You're going to see this documentary for the rest of the time that we see Spencer Rattler in the NFL. So use Spencer Rattler's career as a warning, and hopefully he has a great game. Hopefully he's able to move past this. I just love seeing young quarterbacks succeed. Love seeing more competition in the NFL. And that's really my point with it. I just thought it was super interesting why Spencer Rattler went from a potential first-round quarterback to a fifth-round quarterback in the NFL draft. If you enjoyed this video, if this video taught you anything, please like and subscribe. Like I said, we don't always cover the Saints, but the Saints are a team I do want to cover more. We just can't with time and resources. We're trying to expand that circle with more time and resources that we get. I do enjoy covering just different players from around the league, though. This was an example of that. So if you enjoyed this type of video, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Why do you think Spencer Rattler fell in the draft? And until next time, go do something nice for someone.